Hello, welcome to the DI Dashboard webinar. My name is Shawnee Avery Scott, and I am the training evangelist for Dealer Inspire. My job is to teach you everything you need to know about the DI Dashboard and all the great things we do here at Dealer Inspire. Now, if you have any questions during the segment, you can send them via the chat board, and we'll also have a short Q&A question at the end of the webinar. So let's jump right into it, and we're going to talk about deciphering the analytics code today. It's all about understanding the differences between the dashboard analytics and Google Analytics. And our expert to tell us all about it today is Jennifer Strilko. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Shawnee. I'm happy to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Dealer Inspire?
Sure. Well, I'm the analytics manager for Dealer Inspire. So my team is in charge of tracking the traffic to our websites. We track lead submissions and goal conversions, and we analyze the quality and quantity of traffic to our sites to kind of see what's going on, get a picture, make suggestions for improvements, see where we can direct more traffic to our sites. We also work on conversion rate optimization and A/B testing, and we work closely with our SEO and content teams to monitor and analyze the results of all of the hard work that we put into our client websites.
Excellent. So basically, your job is to make sure that the websites work to the best of the possible ability, and do everything that they're supposed to do.
Yep, exactly, from a traffic standpoint.
Traffic standpoint. All right, excellent. Okay, so this is a great topic because one of the most common things I hear, especially as a trainer, is why are the numbers that I'm seeing in the dashboard, why are they different from the Google Analytics report that I get? So can you answer that question for us?
Yep, so Shawnee, the easy answer is this. The metrics you see in the DI dashboard come from a tool called Clicky, not Google Analytics. Google Analytics is an awesome tool. It's highly recognized and trusted in all industries, and we use it on a daily basis. We're constantly digging in and analyzing our clients' website traffic. But the DI dashboard uses Clicky, which is another well-trusted web analytics tool.
Okay, so why do we use Clicky? What's the advantage?
Well, so Google Analytics is free, and we actually pay for Clicky, which makes Clicky a little more accountable to its paying customers. So while Google can and often does change its tool, Clicky is a little more stable. Both tools are great, and I think it's important to use both if you can, just to consult multiple sources when analyzing the data. Another thing I want to mention is that neither tool is going to give you a 100% accurate picture of your website traffic. We need to kind of think of this data that we see in these tools as trend data. So if you look at your website traffic month over month or year over year, you'll get an idea of what's happening. But if you look at your data one day and then again later that same day or the next day, chances are the numbers won't be exactly the same as you had seen, earlier in the day. And this is because lots of things are happening when your site gets pinged. The tracking tags get fired, or on occasion they misfire, and the data gets sent back and forth from the servers. So, lots of things can happen. In addition, in order to serve data to you quickly, Google relies on pre-aggregated data tables for some of its reports. So, while this sampling aids in getting reports to its customers quicker, it does sacrifice some precision. So again, just kind of think of this as trend data, month over month, year over year. We look at it on a smaller weekly basis or even day basis as well, but it's not going to be a precise science.
Okay, all right, but using both kind of helps us get narrow it down to get a little clearer picture of what's going on the website.
Yep, just
Okay.
different data from two different tools.
Okay, excellent. So now, do you have any examples of the two different metrics and the differences in them?
Yep, so on the next slide we can see that for the purpose of this webinar today, we're going to focus on the Analytics tab in the DI dashboard, and then on that Analytics tab we're going to be focusing on the Traffic Overview section. So that's on the right hand of the slide. The first metric that we'll see on the next slide that we'll take a look at is visits. It's called Visits on the DI dashboard, and it's called Sessions in Google Analytics. So in the past, we would generally see more visits being counted in Google Analytics, and that's because Clicky has traditionally done a better job at filtering out non-human visitors such as bots and spam bots. However, Google Analytics has gotten better at blocking this traffic, and the gap between the two tools has narrowed. So while we still see a difference here, on the dashboard for this client was reporting almost 40,000, and Google Analytics was reporting a little over 40,000. So there is still a difference, but like I said, it's getting smaller. In fact, last summer, Google introduced a new bot filter that automatically filters out thousands and thousands of known spiders and bots. So for anybody listening today, we apply this filter for the websites that we build. Anybody out there that wants to apply the filter to different sites or a different view, it's in Google Analytics, and it can be found at the view level. There's a box called Exclude Traffic from Known Bots and Spiders. You just need to put a check mark in that box, and it'll help filter out that traffic. Oh, by the way, Shawnee, do you happen to know how you can easily identify bot traffic in your analytics?
Bot traffic, other than all the oil leaks. Um,
Besides the oil leaks, a quick and easy way to kind of see if your visitors could be bots is to look for visits that have a 100% or close to 100% bounce rate and zero time on site. So these are not quality visitors. They're just quickly hitting your site, trying to get data and leaving. So that's just a quick way to identify any of those.
okay, you mentioned bounce rate. Now I've heard that thrown around quite a bit. Can you tell us what bounce rate is?
Yep, so we'll take a look at this on the next slide. Bounce rate is probably the metric that has the biggest discrepancy between the DI dashboard and Google Analytics. And this is because of the very different ways in which the two tools differ in calculating bounce rate. I'm going to say that I'm biased towards the way Clicky calculates bounce rate, and I think that most of our listeners today will prefer this method as well once we explain it. So how do the two tools calculate bounce rate? In Google Analytics, bounce rate is the percentage of single-page sessions. In other words, all sessions in which the visitor left your site from the entrance page without interacting with the page. In Clicky, on the other hand, a visitor will only count as a bounce if the visitor only viewed a single page and they were on your site for less than 30 seconds. And that's the identifying distinction. So if the visitor only views a single page but is on that page interacting for more than 30 seconds, he or she will not count as a bounce as they would in Google Analytics. So for this reason, we usually see a much lower bounce rate in the DI dashboard. So we can see on this slide, same clients, the bounce rate in the DI dashboard shows 14.4%, whereas Google Analytics is reporting it as 37.77%. So it's a big difference, and it's because of that 30-second distinction. Also, Shawnee, I want to mention that while it's important to understand and use bounce rate to help us deliver more relevant content to visitors, it shouldn't be used as a KPI. Conversions actually make a much better, realistic key performance indicator than the metrics we're discussing here today.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so on the next slide, we'll talk about actions. Actions is what we call it on the DI dashboard in Clicky, and we can compare that to page views in Google Analytics. Page views is defined in Google Analytics as the total number of pages viewed. Straightforward enough. Clicky actually lumps page views into actions. So page views are getting counted in this actions along with other interactions on your site, such as downloads, events. So for this reason, the item called actions on the dashboard will most likely always be higher than what you see for page views in Google Analytics. So you just need to know that that's where your page views are. And most of this number under actions should consist of your page views. And then, like I said, there could be some other things in there as well, as such as PDF downloads, or if you have podcasts that people are downloading. So in this example here, we can see that there's 100,000 more actions than we see for page views. So that number, like I said, consists of page views as well as some other actions that are going on in this particular site.
Okay.
Okay, so next we will talk about unique visitors. So going back to what I said at the beginning about Google changing things, last spring they made a harmless label change renaming unique visitors to users. So if you've been using Google Analytics for more than a year, you probably noticed this change. Clicky still calls it unique visitors. Every service determines unique visitors a little differently. Google Analytics uses cookies managed via a web server to collect user data. Clicky also uses cookies when they're available, but if not, they fall back on IP address. So how are these calculated? Clicky calculates unique visitors on a daily basis only. This means that if you're getting a sum of unique visitors over a range of more than one day, it will not be accurate because some unique visitors will probably be counted more than one time. So this means that when looking at the DI dashboard, unique visitors is almost always higher than what you would see for users in analytics. And again, that's because in Google Analytics that user is only being counted once, whereas in the dashboard, if you're looking over a range of more than one day, chances are some of those visitors will be counted more than once. So we'll always see a higher number in the dashboard.
Okay.
Okay, next we will talk about time on sites. So for this metric, you'll most likely see a longer time on site in the DI dashboard than in Google Analytics. In the dashboard, this metric is called visit length, and in Google Analytics, it's called average session duration. So on the next slide, we can see a summary of how this is calculated in both tools. It can sound a little confusing, but we'll try to explain it clearly, and it does make sense when you stop to think about it. So when a visitor is on your sites, Clicky continues to ping their servers throughout their time on the last page view. Visit length is then calculated as the difference between the time of the first page view and the time of the last ping on the last page view. In Google Analytics, on the other hand, session duration is calculated as the difference between the first hit on the first page and the first hit on the last page. It does not include, as Clicky does, time on that last page. So therefore, time on site will almost always be higher in the DI dashboard because, like we said, Clicky includes all of that time on the last page, whereas Google Analytics stops the timer at the first hit on that last page. Does that make sense?
It does. I wish I had you as an algebra teacher in school. I would have done much better. Okay. All right.
I don't know about that.
I, now, what is there anything else like with all this great information? Is there anything else you'd like to throw in and add?
Yeah, so on the next slide, and this veers from the report that we've been talking about today, but just something I want to mention because it's timely. It seems to be coming up, just came up actually the other day for one of our clients. This is the top cities report on the DI dashboard. And one thing I want to mention is that on occasion, we or a client will notice a city in here that just doesn't quite look right for the cities that should be appearing in their top cities report. So what do we do if we see that happen? The first thing we'd want to do is check if we're running paid search campaigns, just to check and make sure that they're being targeted properly. Assuming that the targeting is correct, the next steps to take are mapping the visitors to their ISPs. And the reason I'm mentioning this is one of our project managers, Megan, recently wrote a very detailed blog post kind of listing out the steps to take if you do see a city in this report that just doesn't make sense to kind of track it down and figure out what's happening. So just want to mention, Shay, if anybody's listening and you notice a city that just doesn't make sense, feel free to hit us up and we can dig through it, or you can also find the blog post with the instructions if you want to try it yourself on our blog at www.launchdigitalmarketing.com.
Excellent, Jen. Okay, so after all said and done, and we have all this great information, like what are our takeaways from this?
Yeah, so on the next slide, I just listed for everybody the metrics that we talked about today and just kind of have a note here. So if down the road you start to go back and you see these differences and wondering if they make sense or not, just kind of have this in your back pocket. Know that visits in general will be higher in Google Analytics, but that difference you see between the dashboard and analytics is getting smaller. Bounce rate is almost always going to be higher in Google Analytics as well, and that's because of that fact that we discussed that a visit that is greater than 30 seconds is not counted as a bounce in Clicky, whereas it may be counted as a bounce in Google Analytics. Actions will almost always be higher in the DI dashboard, and that's because that term includes page views as well as other actions on your site, whereas if you look in Google Analytics, there's that straightforward page view metric. Unique visitors is usually higher in the dashboard, and that's because visitors, if you're looking at a span more than one day, some of your unique visitors may be counted more than once, so we do usually see that a little higher in the dashboard. And then time on site is usually longer in the dashboard because of the way Clicky calculates time on site, where they include that time spent on the last page that your visitor was on. So, just a little, hopefully handy card to have in your back pocket when you do see those differences again.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of information disseminated here, guys. So does anyone have any sort of questions for Jen right now while we have her?
I'm also putting my email up in the chat if anybody wants to contact me after this. I have it right here.
Okay. All right. Yep. Let's see it. That's yep. J Strilko, JSTRILKO at launchdigitalmarketing.com. All right. Well, if you guys, that seems to be it for us. But if you would like to see this webinar again or pass it along, it will be up as a link within 24 hours at dealerinspire.com/DI How Do I. Also, while you're there, go ahead and sign up for our next webinar, which is how to personalize your website in 20 minutes or less with our very own Joe Chura. You definitely do not want to miss that. I promise you it'll be a treat. If you can also do us a huge favor, since this is a new endeavor for us, we'd love to hear your feedback. So just if you could type in your browser, type in po.st/DISURVEY DI survey, and let us know what you thought. A few fun questions, and let us know how we're doing. So thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today.
You're welcome, Shawnee. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for listening. And once again, I am Shawnee, the trainer of technologies for innovative dealers such as yourself. See you next week.